Hello and welcome to the Race to Speak Up podcast. As always, I'm your host, Devin Moore. Today's guest is Hayley Krawitz. Currently, Hayley is able to use her personal passion for increasing youth voice and activation in addressing community needs in her position as the outreach manager for Colorado Young Leaders. At Colorado Young Leaders, they work to help high school youth develop their passions, self-confidence, and zest for life through community service and leadership development. They identify and work with students' personal passion and interest areas to find unique ways to develop new and exciting actions that speak to their goals each month. By saying yes to jumping into these activities, young leaders are able to find new ways to build community connections to various cause areas that aim to support their growth in becoming thoughtful generational leaders. Welcome, Hayley. How are you doing?
Good, Devin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining me. So why don't you tell us about Colorado Young Leaders?
Yeah, so Colorado Young Leaders is an amazing program here in Colorado. Obviously, we mostly focus around the Front Range, but we do have students engaged all across Colorado and even some out of state too, because our alumni network is huge, as you can imagine. Once you graduate from high school, you don't ever really want to let go of those really awesome programs that you're a part of. So what we do is we help high school students really kind of dive into things that they want to get involved in. If they're looking to get involved in their community, if they're looking to find better social skills, better leadership actions, different ways that they can set themselves apart in the world and really kind of start to identify, what am I excited about? What am I passionate about? How do I want to get involved in the community? Our job is to say yes to that. So Colorado Young Leaders is one of those organizations that is completely youth run. There's only 3 adults that are behind the scenes kind of helping get things situated and pulling the strings that need to be pulled. But really our program is based off of youth voice. It's all about, if youth come to us and say, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to create action, we jump into it. We say yes to that. So everything that our students want to dive into, yes, absolutely. Let's figure out how to make you a better and more thoughtful leader in the community by increasing your connection to the community itself.
Yes, I love that. Yes, got to get into it and go right and help youth with whatever they're doing. So how did it begin? How did Colorado Young Leaders begin?
Oh, Colorado Young Leaders actually started in a high school. So our founder's name is Nicole Mahobian, and she was working for Teach for America at the time. And she was finding that there, in the school that she was working in, a lot of the students were just saying, you know, I have to do service projects, or I have to do volunteering, or I have to do these things. But she was asking them, like, what do you want to do? What is your drive? What's your goals? And she was realizing that a lot of students were in danger of graduating without having any sort of declarable passion. They didn't really have any sort of like wherewithal to be able to say, I want to dive into this and I have support behind me to be able to let me do that. So she amazingly said, we need a program like that. And Colorado Young Leaders was born. It started with a small group of students in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, and they were able to really start our first ever youth advisory board, where they went into the community, said, what are the actions we want to see happen in the community? And then they created projects to help better the community in those needs. So it was a really cool opportunity for Nicole as a, you know, she's very outgoing. She's very beautiful in terms of her inspiration actions for young leaders. And so she really set the stage for how we go forward in that.
And I know that Colorado Young Leaders it's broken into leadership exploration, service adventures, and decalibron. So if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. No, decalibron is kind of not a normal word. So I totally understand if it's your first time ever seeing that word too. So yeah, we have 3 different tiers of adventure with us. So one thing that you need to know about CYL is that, and we use CYL, we love acronyms. So we have YAB as a Youth Advisory Board, and CYL is in Colorado Young Leaders. But one thing that everyone should know about CYL is that the goal is for you to get engaged in what way works for you to hit the goals that you want to hit. So the first thing that we offer out to the community, which is the first thing people tend to see, is our service adventures. So we try and hit each month, we try and get at least 5 to 7 different cause areas activated in action during that month. So what that actually might mean is that we have close to 15 adventures. Some are run by students, some are run by nonprofits already doing the work in the community that we want to amplify. And others are things that students have come to us and said, hey, we want to create this action. Can we do it together? And so we put that into place too. So the whole goal of our service adventures is just to get students involved, just to get their feet wet in service or in a cause area. Maybe they're really passionate about the environment, but they don't really know what that means in terms of what direction they want to lean into. So our service adventures are a great way for us to amplify the work already being done in the community by our incredible nonprofit program partners, and also to create other actions where we can amplify the students' needs in the community. And then the second tier is our leadership development. Obviously, Colorado Young Leaders has that tricky name of adding leaders into it. But the cool thing about our leadership actions is that it's all gauged off of students. So what that means is we don't see a leader as a person that's standing in front of a group of people telling that group of people what to do. We see a leader as seeing a need in the community or seeing a thing that needs to be addressed and doing their steps in their own unique way on how to address that need. So that might mean you're joining an action focused around hunger and homelessness that's already taking place. You're not leading the action, you're being a part of the action, you're sharing that information out to your community, and you're sharing different ways that your community can then get involved in a new and unique way. But we also offer leadership development meetings. So we have local chapters. We have 5 here in Colorado. And so each of our local chapters really focuses on a community. So we have like the Northeast Denver chapter focuses on the Northeast Denver area, and they really dive into what are some of the issues that are affecting our community, how do the youth want to dive into that, what do we want to do together. And so each of our chapters is actually right now in a really fun moment of time where they're creating their spring project ideas. So all throughout the year, they've worked on different leadership skills in their meetings. Maybe that's goal setting, maybe it's looking at empathy and what that looks like for you. It could also be active listening. So each of our meetings brings up a different leadership skill for them to really dive into. And then in the spring, they say, okay, this is what we've noticed all year. What do we want to do? So they create an amazing project for Global Youth Service Day, which is the biggest youth service action of the year. And so each of our chapters comes up with their own unique project for that. So that's what they're diving into. But we also have those students that are like, I don't even know where to get started. How do I even like say yes to something if I'm uncomfortable with stepping into something new or stepping outside of my comfort zone? That's where the Decalibron program comes in. So the Decalibron program is actually a metaphorical program in our program that's based off of an actual Decalibron loop hike here in Colorado. In Colorado, there's a big word that a lot of people tend to know while you're here. It's called 14er, and it's a 14,000 foot mountain. And you can actually hike 14,000 foot mountains here in Colorado. We have over 50 of them here in the state, and 4 of them are actually on the same trail. And that's called the Decalibron Loop. So we actually based our program off of that Decalibron Loop because the way that Nicole set it up, each of those summits, so each of those 4 mountains, hits a different goal on the way to creating and affecting your own unique legacy action. So each of those summits is designed for you to get step-by-step support with an adult mentor, which we call summit guides. You're getting step-by-step support with other youth that are also achieving that same summit. And then we actually hike the summits all together in September as kind of a fun uniting front of all CYL. So there's 3 different ways to get involved in our program. It's really up to you on how you want to step in.
Wait, so is all of that a part of the 1 year round program?
1 year round. I don't know do you mean just in 1 year?
Oh yeah, I like the year round free program.
Oh yeah. So sorry, our program is completely year round. No, I totally understand. Our program is completely year round, but the Decalibron is designed for you to be able to achieve the entire thing. We've had students do it over 1 summer. We've had students do it over 4 years of high school. It's designed to help you each year step into something new. So if you really want to dive into it, the Decalibron, the first summit, which we call Mount Democrat is all about exploring causes, getting involved, jumping into things that you wouldn't normally jump into. So that way you can get your feet wet in different areas. Once you've done that and you've set yourself up in different areas that interest you, we ask you to say, okay, now can you write a trip report about what you did this past year? And so in that trip report, they'll write out, these are the cause areas that I focused on. These are the things that I'm really passionate about. But this one cause area is the one that I want to commit to. So the cool thing about that is once a student commits to a cause, it doesn't mean that the other causes are at the wayside. It means that they've realized that that is their main passion area for this time being of their life, and they want to dive in and learn more about that. So the second summit helps them do that. So instead of volunteering everywhere, you actually get the opportunity to get specialized actions in that same cause area with different nonprofits around Denver. We have so many nonprofits here working in different cause areas that say you're interested in adaptive sports and recreation. Well, just here in Colorado, you can work with Special Olympics Colorado, Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, their adaptive program. You can work with the National Sports Center for the Disabled or Highlands Ranch Therapeutic Association. So there's different opportunities for you to understand what adaptive sports and recreation actually looks like. And so when you're committing to a cause, you're committing to learning all the different ways that that cause shows up in the community and how you can affect change in it. And so at the end of that summit, they dive in a little bit deeper and they say, okay, I've learned what cause area I'm focused on. I've seen different actions for it. Now I want to see how my personal passions and my personal leadership style can affect real beautiful change in that cause area. And that takes you to our third summit. So the third summit is digging in deeper. And in that case, we really try and find internships or fellowships or partnerships where you can specifically dedicate time to learn the root cause of what's happening in the community around that cause area. And then you can start to see that correlation of why you're so passionate about it. And so if you're passionate about adaptive sports, why? What is the reasoning that is showing up in your community for you? And how do you want to step into that space uniquely? And so you'll learn about the history of that cause area. You'll learn about why those nonprofits show up. You'll learn about the people who work in that passion area. And so that way you can start to see like, okay, if I'm really interested in IT or computer support, but I love adaptive sports, how can I correlate those two things together to create something really fun and unique? And that takes you to the fourth summit, which is what we call our legacy action. So there's a lot going on. Yeah. So like I said, some people will do it over the summer and then others, it'll take 4 years for them to step into that space. So we allow you to step into that on your own unique journey. We're not telling you there's no tests. There's no, like, you have to do this amount of hours in order to achieve this goal. The goal here is just for you to get involved. And so we're here to help you along the way in whatever that looks like for you.
Wow. I've got a lot going on.
We do. Really actually, cool. Our podcast is a legacy project that was created from one of our students and learning about the action of like going through their decalibron process, learning that there's a lot of voices that are underrepresented in the community and how can we step into that? So they created an Instagram platform called Here Are Voices, where students stepped up and they told their own personal stories around certain things. And then that was then translated by the next generation of young leaders, where they turned it into a podcast. So this is an ongoing action. We don't see legacy as it's a one-stop shop. We see legacy as you're starting to pave the way for someone else to step into those shoes. So it's a really cool opportunity for students.
Yeah, no, I'm like at a loss of words right now. I love how many things you guys got going on, because it's so true that you need a platform in order to really express what they're passionate about and really figure out what maybe like why they're passionate, what they can do with that passion, or, just get a feel for what they like in general. I know at Humanity.
Look at you. I mean, look at you right now. You're using your passion to create effective change here by giving your voice a platform. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what we want to promote.
Oh, yeah. I mean, thank you. Because it's just like with the podcast, it does allow me to not only further spread my voice, but also learn from others, hear from others. My audience hears from others. On top of that, like when I created this quick thing with this. When I created this podcast, one of my goals is to allow for, say youth who may be interested in what Colorado Young Leaders does and like, how can I get involved, or how can I, do something that relates to that and, like get a feel for different things, like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give youth the opportunity, or whoever's listening to my podcast, the opportunity to really get a feel for not only what I'm doing, but for what others are doing. You guys really do have a lot going on.
We do have a lot going on. And the cool thing about the program is that it never slows down. Honestly, there's a lot of opportunities. Every time we think we have a slow moment, we'll add something new to what we call our Get Connected portal, which is how students sign up for things. We have an online digital platform where they can sign up for really cool opportunities, find scholarships or fellowship actions, and like really cool activities that they can get involved in that have no pressure. It's just about showing up and learning about new things. Like, just for example, today we added 3 brand new things onto our platform. One is a mini medical school action where students who are interested in the medical field can actually go to medical school for a day. So it's a really cool opportunity here in Denver that one of the local hospitals is putting out to gauge more interest in the medical field. We also added a virtual workshop that actually you, Devin, can join because it's virtual, around climate policy. So any of our students who are interested in how do you affect change at a local level to drive policy change at a bigger level, we're actually hosting that with one of our young leaders who's an alumni of our program and now an adult mentor in our program, who also works for 350 Colorado, which is an environmental action program here. So we have really cool opportunities for students to be able to say, okay, I'm really passionate about this thing, or that just sounds fun. And I need some cool service hours and something that I'm interested in, as opposed to like, let's just go outside and rake the leaves out front of our school. There's nothing wrong with that. The leaves need to be raked, but why not do something that you're passionate about in driving change if it's something that you really want to see affected? And one thing that we've noticed from our young leaders is this is our 8th year in action. And each year, our students become more and more pointed as to how they want to affect change. It's not this overarching like, oh, it's very ominous, we don't really know. Each year, we're noticing more and more that they graduate from our program and from high school with a clear definition of this is the next step that I want to take, or I'm open to new things because I tried these things out of my comfort zone. So there's so many opportunities there for us to engage with different organizations around the country too. And we love that.
You have a lot of great things going on with Colorado Young Leaders. Mm-hmm. So as far as the students who have, been a part of them, has there been anything that has really, stuck out to you that some of the students have done over the years?
I mean, honestly, every single day I'm inspired by our young leaders. Like, if it wasn't for them during this past 2 years of dealing with everything going on in the world, I don't think I would have had as much hope for the future as seeing all of the things that they're putting into action. So just this past year, we've hosted a variety of programs around hunger and homelessness, addressing food insecurity and food deserts here in Colorado. We've planted close to 300 trees, actually over 300 trees. And just in the past year, actually 2 days, I think we planted 300 trees. And then we also partnered with Calwood Education Center and planted more trees on their property from the fires that we've had. I don't know if you've heard a lot about our Colorado fires the past few years, but they've been getting bigger and bigger. And one of the biggest things that our students stepped into was, how do we mitigate this climate crisis here in Colorado? And so a lot of their actions were revolved around environmental opportunities, or learning more about fire mitigation, or even just helping out the firefighters on site. So everything that our students have stepped into has inspired us to like different levels of amazingness. And each one of our young leaders that graduates from our program, they each leave the program with this beautiful symphony of opportunities that they've engaged in. We had students just, if you think about like one of our young leaders. So for example, I'm going to speak to the student who I was just telling you is now an adult mentor. They started with a friend bringing them to a leadership meeting and saying, hey, I want to try out this thing. Can you join me? 4 years later, they've realized, hey, I'm really passionate about youth voice. I'm also passionate about environmentalism. And they ended up starting and creating the Hero Voices platform. And they ended up their senior year, just before quarantine hit, moderating a senatorial candidate debate here in Colorado focused on climate action. And that's something that they got the opportunity to do that because they reached out, the organization 350 reached out to us and said, do you have a young leader who would like to ask a youth-based question? And I said, oh boy, do we. We have a million of them. But this one particular young leader was able to create this beautifully focused question, so well intended to get this beautiful reaction from the senatorial candidates of challenging them, that they asked them to stay up on stage and moderate the entire debate with them. So it was this really cool opportunity where they then got to step up in front of these policy changers and policy leaders and say, this is what matters to us. What matters to you? And that was such a cool moment. But that's just a tiny snippet of what our young leaders now do in the community. And that young leader is now an adult mentor. They're leading an entire chapter. And it's a really cool opportunity where they're able to step into their passion area and also support others stepping into their passion area too. And one thing that's across the board for the 3 staff members that we have, and then our incredible adult mentors, is that we're all 100% on board with activating youth passion and activating youth voice. And we need more youth voice in the world. Why not create the opportunity for that to happen?
And I know that you mentioned chapters. So, and I think you may have mentioned like where certain ones are before, but like where does it range? Like what areas?
Yeah, so our chapters are focused around Denver metro area. That doesn't mean that only Denver metro students are in those chapters. We do have students that live in Steamboat Springs, that live in Fort Collins, Ouray, Grand Junction. And then we even have participants that are part of our program that are out of state, because they live on a reservation or because they go to college, but they're still a part of our program in terms of when they come back, they adult volunteer with the program, or they lead an event with us, or they'll join us for certain things that are virtual. But yeah, the majority of our chapters are all based off Denver metro area. So we have Northeast Denver chapter, which includes like all the way from Fort Collins down to Boulder. And then we have Northeast area, which is kind of the around the DIA, around the airport type of environment. But it also goes all the way down to like Aurora. And then we have Aurora south to Parker, and that's our Southeast area. And then we have our Highlands Ranch, Littleton, Inglewood area, which is our Southwest area, and then Central Denver. And as you can imagine, Central Denver, it is typically our biggest area, just because there's so many schools in a small area of space in Denver. But we also have actions that happen down in Colorado Springs. Like, for example, this weekend, we're heading down to a wild burro rescue to help out on a 190-acre ranch and play with wild burros. So these are burros that have been rounded up by BLM. And so they don't have the best experience with humans, right? And so our job is to help them get more accustomed to humans so that they can feel like they're part of a pack and they don't feel like they're out of their natural element. And so it's a really cool opportunity for us to learn about wild burros, to work with wild burros. We actually get to walk them through an obstacle course, which if you've never worked with wild burros, it's like gigantic puppies. And then at the end of the day, we celebrate all of the hard work that we put in by going over to the Interpretive Paint Mines Park in Calhoun, Colorado, and hiking around a little bit. It's a beautiful piece of landscape. And with my background as a former outdoor guide and park ranger, I do a little bit of a geology talk around what that area was created for and why it's so special to the indigenous populations of the area and how we need to protect it and preserve it. So it's kind of an all-encompassing opportunity for us to be a part of CYL. Is you can join whatever works for you. You don't have to be in Denver, but if you are in Denver and you want to jump in, you can jump in at any point.
Wow, I'm at a loss of words because it's just like, I love how many different things that you have. Like, it's not just one thing, or it's not just 2 specific things. It's a variety of different things. And you continuously give youth platform, or give all platforms to do what they want to do, or just dive into different things that they may not even know that they're interested in. It's really interesting how you're able, it's really cool, I think, that you're able to really do that. And then you also,
it's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it. Like, that's the thing, is that each one of our young leaders, when they say like, this is something that I'm really passionate about, are there any opportunities for this out there? When they say that to me, it's saying, please, like, help me find the things that I want to get involved in, and then I'll take it from there. That's the phrasing that I hear when they say something like that. So for example, we had a student who was like, his first event with us, he said, I'd really love to get more opportunities for public speaking. Do you have anything like that? And I said, absolutely, we can find something. Within a couple weeks, we had him speaking to an entire group of 5th graders around how to activate your voice. And so we helped him along the way. We helped him identify the points that he wanted to step into and practice his speech, and then identify like how to speak to 5th graders. And so we helped him each step of the way. And he did that presentation. He came out of it with this feeling of, wow, like that was a really cool opportunity for me to be able to say, I want to learn this skill. Here's the steps along the way. And then here's the skill on a platter for like me to be able to move forward with it. So that's the thing about CYL, is that if you are a student that just wants to get involved in the community, absolutely join us. If you are a student who wants to use your voice to better the society, absolutely join us. Or if you're just a youth who says, I think we need more youth in charge of things, those are the ones that we're really looking for, right? Like you, Devin, like you want to step into something, you want to use your voice, and you want somebody to be behind you saying, you go for it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. If you whenever I like come across someone, whether it be my age, a little older, a little younger, something like that, and they're saying, I want to do something, I want to, do something within my passion, and them like knowing that they're passionate about something, that really is like a wake-up call. That really is, you need to go and help them. Like, and especially if you're an adult doing it too, giving them that platform, that is perfect. Or if it's another youth saying, oh, join me, come get a feel for this with what I'm doing, that's perfect too. That's what we need in this world. And
that's generational leadership. You're creating opportunities for the younger generation and the older generation to participate. You're not saying, hey, I'm the leader here, I'm going to put it into action and all of you fall in line. That's not what we're looking for in terms of leadership. That's what we have in terms of leadership. So what we're looking for is, how can we collaborate to make everyone's environment better? How can we collaborate to say, okay, what's missing in this voice? Who's not at the table that we need to bring to the table right now? And that's something that CYL is working on really heavily, is what voices are not being represented in our program right now? How can we drive that and get that to those communities that want to make change or want to step into using their voice, but don't have the capability or the time? Because that's the other thing about about Generation Z is, you all don't have any time. There's no time on your schedule. I don't know how you're accomplishing the things that you're doing. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, we do need more time, but yeah, because then I'm also like, generational leadership, it really is important, because there's times where I think about, we need platforms where we can really dive in, like, and talk about a topic that we're really understanding of, that older generations may not understand. We kind of need that, because we are in modern day. It is 2021, 2022. It's 2022 now, but yeah, we need that. We're time goes on, things keep changing, people are embracing themselves more and more, people are expressing themselves in beautiful ways that we need to embrace. And we just, we need, adults who may not understand that, or maybe from like some other time period where dressing certain ways, acting certain ways, expressing yourself in certain ways wasn't the norm. We need that cross-generational talk. We need that cross-generational talk in order to understand each other. It always starts with a conversation. It always.
Well, here's what you don't need. You don't need us telling you how to do it. You don't need adults telling you that what your idea is it going to work? Is it not going to work? How to do it? What to do? What you need is just the support to say, yes, you can do that. And here's all the resources that you need if you want help writing a letter or sending out a reference or doing these things to gather community. We're here to help support you in that, but we're not here to do it for you, because that's not how you learn, right? So becoming a leader is saying, I want to learn this skill. What are my resources that can help me bloom this skill? And so that's a really cool opportunity too, where you're giving this platform that you have to people to be able to say, hey, this is a cool action, dive into it. Here's a cool way to use your voice. Here's a cool way to step up. But what you don't need is the older generation saying, no, that's going to work or that's not going to work. And that, unfortunately, that's what a lot of young leaders hear.
Yeah, it's so true. But that's why we need to continuously get more and more of these different platforms where you can really express themselves. Yeah. That's why Colorado Young Leaders is perfect for that. So what's been the most, I feel like you would say everything when I ask this question, but I'm about to say, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey with Colorado Young Leaders?
Honestly, making the friends that I have and the students. Some of these students are now some of my closest friends. And it's one of those really cool actions where as a former, teacher and working in schools, like you don't really get that connection piece. Like you're always in that authoritative role. But the coolest thing about CYL is one, being able to get to know the young leaders that are in our program on a detailed basis. Like I know their favorite shoes and I know where they're stepping into for college and why they want to study this thing, because I know about their turtle poster that they made in 3rd grade. And like, it's one of those really cool actions where we've become friends and we've stepped into a space where we can learn from each other. So I've learned so much from them that I couldn't even tell you all the amazing things that they've taught me as an adult in the community. And so one of the best things that we do, and this is going to absolutely take your brain to another level, because it's one more thing that we do with CYL, is during the summer, we run something called the Think Like a Genius Challenge. And the Think Like a Genius Challenge is for organizations to put together teams of young leaders between the ages of 14 and 19 to address a focal question and create and activate in 7 weeks an action to address that focal question. And so they're able to come together and say, this is what we want to focus on. They get nonprofit support, community mentor support, corporate sponsorship for that team. And then they have 7 weeks to put into action as much as they can around that focal question, because at the end of 7 weeks, they bring all their information back and they present it to a panel of judges, and they're awarded grants and monetary prizes for all the actions that they put in during that 7 weeks. And so it's a really cool program where we host that each summer. The applications for teams are going to be opening on April 1st, but we host that each summer. And that program is starting here in Colorado. It started with the Boys and Girls Clubs, giving youth that are underrepresented in different communities a voice and a platform. And now it's grown to all of Colorado, and soon it's going to be growing beyond Colorado. So we already have teams that are interested from one of our program partners who works in different states on Native American reservations. So getting Gen 7, or like the Gen 7 young leaders, so Indigenous young leaders, to create a team to address this in their own community. So the coolest thing I will say about the CYL program is being able to take our full program and bring it down to 7 weeks and still see the same impact or change happen from a full program to 7 weeks, because the young leaders are so adamant about what they want to drive. And that is probably my highlight of the year, is at the end of that final event, I sit down and I'm like in tears, just like, I can't believe they did so much. That's so amazing. And then they all get grants to continue their actions. And some of the projects from the past few years are still activated in the community right now. So it's this really cool opportunity where young leaders' voices rise up above everyone else's. And that's something that you don't see that often anymore. People say that they do it. They say that they raise up young leaders' voices, but a lot of times it's you raise it up to get to where you want it to be. The sky's the limit for Colorado young leaders.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. What are your hopes and dreams moving forward with CYL?
That's like an 18-fold question. But I will say my hopes and dreams are that the students that are in our program are able to inspire in their own way. They're the people that come after them. So whether that's within our program or outside of our program, or 30 years from now, that they're able to take what they've learned in CYL and be able to translate that to other young leaders of the next generation. And that they're able to say, hey, I learned this skill growing up, and I learned how to activate other people's voices and to continue that action. And so it's a really cool way for students to be nonpartisan in their decisions to use voice and to share voice, because I feel like we're so partisan right now in our world, that the fact that CYL is a nonpartisan organization, we amplify every voice. We amplify, as long as you're driving change forward and you want things to be a positive outcome for systemic change, we'll drive that forward. And so that's the other thing too, is I think that if we have the opportunity to grow these voices outside of Colorado and to have our alumni step into that space outside of Colorado, no matter where they are in the world, they're able to create an opportunity for young voices and young leaders to step forward. And that's kind of our ultimate goal, is that you have a clear passion, a clear purpose, a zest for the life that you want to create, and the ability and skills to be able to move that forward.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to see what's going on in the future with you guys. I mean, I know you
Well,
just,
you'll have to jump onto some stuff with us.
yeah. I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, let me really get into the think like a genius
The
challenge,
Think Like a
right?
Genius Challenge. Yeah, it's based off of a book that was written by Todd Seiler, who's an MIT grad. Todd and his brother Eric created the Think Like a Genius Foundation, and they started working with Fortune 500 companies, thinking outside the box to solve everyday problems. And so they said, we're working with these Fortune 500 companies, and that's great and all, but we're missing a huge element of the future. And so they started creating this challenge where they got all those Fortune 500 companies to donate money to sponsor a team and to create actions happening in the community. And it just progressed from there. And so we took it over in the beginning of 2020, just before COVID hit. And so we ran our first challenge last summer. And our focal question was, what social inequities became more prominent during COVID-19 that you want to address? And so we had teams focused on immigrant and refugee mental health actions, focused on education reform. How do you access education platforms when you're not like in school or talking with a counselor, or maybe you're homeschooled or have an alternative school plan? How do you address the same type of actions and needs? We also had groups that said, you know what, the next step that we need teacher support in addressing mental health in the classroom. So they created a curriculum to share out with teachers in the local community to address mental health support in a safe way. And so each of our teams came up with this beautiful action plan and then put it into action in 7 weeks. So the Think Like a Genius Challenge is this really cool opportunity for teams across Colorado to say, hey, okay, what's the focal question this year, which we just launched yesterday. It's now on our site. So good luck to all of you because the applications aren't open yet. But our focal question just launched, and it is focused around mental health. How do you address things in your community focused around health? And I'm not going to give you the entire focal question because it's still a secret, but it's all around mental, physical, or sexual health awareness and releasing that stigma of talking about it and addressing it in your communities. And as you know, as a high schooler, that's what everyone's focused on right now is mental health. But mental, physical, and sexual health are all interchangeable and they work together to create change. So our teams are able to take that question and say, how does that show up in my community? What do we want to do about it? Let's do it. And then they get the ability and the support to be able to step forward in that.
Hayley, this whole time I've been at a loss of words because of the amount of amazing, beautiful, like that sounds just like a dream to me. Because as you know, I'm like really definitely into youth service. I'm always into seeing youth prosper and youth, effectively help each other, be upstanders for each other, support each other in any way, and then having that platform, like I said before, just having that platform is perfect. So I'm like, let me get involved with this. So I'm definitely going to be looking more into, that aspect. And this has been a really good conversation, Hayley.
Well, thanks, Devin. Yeah, and if you decide that you want to, register on our Get Connected portal, you just simply go to coloradoyoungleaders.org and click on the student tab and register, and it'll take you to what we call our Get Connected portal. And the cool thing about that portal is by signing up, you get added to our weekly email that sends out all of our upcoming actions. So you get notified of scholarships and fellowships and really cool things happening here in Colorado. And then there's also opportunity for you to create and cultivate a volunteer resume on our site for free. So everything you do with CYL, you get service hours for. So like I said, why not get your hours or get involved in your community in a way that you're passionate? We love all of our program partners. We have program partners that go from Habitat for Humanity all the way to Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, all the way to, like I said, Saving the Wild American Burro. So we have them across all cause areas. And so even if you're not looking, even if you're coming out of state and you're just looking for activities that are open for teens or young leaders to get involved in, all of our program partners are highlighted because of that. So they open opportunities for teens and young leaders to get involved. And so that's one of the coolest things about our platform is that you can not just add your hours or find opportunities, but you can find programs that if you're like, hey, I'm really interested in environmental action and justice, you can type that into our filter on our programs page, and all of our programs that we work with that are open to teens will pop up. So it's such a cool opportunity for any young leader to get involved. but it's a really amazing opportunity for our Colorado young leaders, because we want to, as a Coloradan, we love the outdoors. We love stepping outside of our comfort zones. And so that's kind of where the beautiful thought process came from Nicole's brain and onto a sheet of paper, is how can we use all of the beauty that's around us and in us to affect systemic change? Let's do it.
Awesome. Say yes to that. Yes to that.
Yes, say yes. We love that word.
You want to also say the social media platforms for CYO?
Yeah, so you can find us. We do have a TikTok. It's about to be taken over by our podcast, our upcoming podcast. Our podcast, like yours, Devin, is run by youth, produced by youth, and marketed by youth. So our TikTok platform is CO Young Leaders. That's also our Instagram platform is CO Young Leaders. So you're able to find us on Instagram. The majority of our share out information does come through on Instagram or on our weekly HAPS email. So you can also find us on LinkedIn as well, and then find our executive director and our program director, which are the other two of the trifecta of leadership. And so they're on LinkedIn as well, in addition to myself. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities for you to find us. And then you can always reach out to us if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me, Hayley, and showing how you race to speak, or really how all of you with CYL race to speak. Oh, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah. And Devin, if you want to join us for a virtual event, I hope to see you there.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm definitely going to do that. Awesome. And then thank you for everyone who's listening. I hope to see you guys at future Race to Speak Up podcasts. If you have any questions about the Race to Speak Up podcast, feel free to contact me at racetospeakup@gmail.com. Make sure to go to my website, www.racetospeakup.com, and check out all things Race to Speak Up. Make sure to follow at Race to Speak Up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for updates on future podcasts. And join the Humanity Rising movement. Humanity Rising offers scholarships for students making a difference in the world through service. Visit www.humanityrising.org for more information. Remember to ask yourself this question: how do you race to speak up?